picture a warehouse worker at Amazon, in a distribution center in Ohio, hauling packages, making $19 an hour. Now picture a software engineer, same company, sitting in the Seattle headquarters, pulling in $400,000 a year in salary and stock. Now imagine a law. One sentence. Amazon, Apple, and Google will distribute the entirety of their annual net profits, no exceptions, equally among every employee. The warehouse worker and the CEO get the same check. The janitor and the lead engineer sign the same paycheck. Sounds fair, right? That's exactly why this experiment is so dangerous. Because within 3 months, the 3 most valuable companies on Earth are heading toward a collapse, or a transformation they never saw coming. I'm Money, and this is Money's Experiments. Let's start with the numbers, because that's where all the drama in this experiment lives. In 2025, these 3 companies reported a combined $322 billion in net profit. Amazon, $77.7 billion. Apple, $112 billion. Google's parent, Alphabet, $132.2 billion. Here's the interesting part. The number of people generating that profit is wildly unequal. Amazon has 1,576,000 employees. Apple has roughly 164,000. Google has 190,820. Added up, 1.93 million people across the 3 companies. Split $322 billion equally among 1.93 million people, and you get roughly $166,000 per person a year. For the warehouse worker, that's nearly 10 times his salary extra. For the Google engineer, it's an add-on to an already high salary, but compared to his stock and bonus package, it's actually a cut. That asymmetry is going to write this entire story. The day the law takes effect, 3 different worlds wake up to 3 different mornings. In Amazon's warehouses, there's celebration. A forklift operator making $45,000 a year finds out he's getting an extra $166,000 on top of it. And that's money that genuinely changes his life. A down payment on a house, his kid's college fund, a budget he can finally breathe in. But in the offices in Seattle, Mountain View, and Cupertino, the mood is completely different. Because in Silicon Valley, salary was never just salary. More than half of a senior engineer's total compensation comes from stock grants and performance bonuses, and those are now being replaced by an equal profit share, net effect. An engineer whose base salary stays the same but whose stock grant and bonus evaporate is actually losing $200,000 to $300,000 a year. And right here, the moment it looks fair, the system starts to crack. Because equality doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. Within a week, resignation letters start piling up out of Google's AI team. Why? Because competitors, Microsoft, Nvidia, OpenAI, even a 2-person startup, aren't bound by this law. They can still offer the best engineers the best deal on the table. For an AI researcher, the math is simple. Stay at Google, get flat salary plus an average profit share. Go to a competitor, get a $2 million signing bonus alone, plus an annual stock package. This is a textbook case of what economists call talent arbitrage. The law, in trying to make the 3 companies equal, ends up isolating them from the market. In the first month, 40 of Google's top 200 researchers resign. Apple's chip design team sees similar losses. Amazon's AWS cloud engineers start walking out the door too. And here's the strange reversal. A law designed to guarantee equality ends up causing the 3 companies to lose their most talented people. But the real shock, 2 months in, comes from somewhere nobody expected. Retirement funds. Profits are no longer going to shareholders, they're going to employees. That means no dividends, no stock buybacks, no profit growth reflected in shareholder value. For an investor, that raises a simple question. Why hold this stock? If there's no answer, you sell. And they do sell. Apple stock loses 34% of its value in 3 weeks. Alphabet 41%. Amazon 52%. Because Amazon's market value was always built on growth expectations, not profit. In total, $2.3 trillion evaporates from the 3 companies' market caps. And here's where the irony hits hardest. Who holds most of these shares? Ordinary Americans, in their 401k retirement accounts, teachers, firefighters, public employees' pension funds. So the $166,000 handed to the warehouse worker is effectively being pulled out of a teacher's retirement savings as she approaches retirement. You fix one side of the system, and you break the other. This is the clearest proof there's never a free lunch in economics. So what do the companies do at this point? Just accept the loss and wait it out? No, big companies always find a way. Amazon's first move, accelerate automation. The logic is brutal but simple. If the law calculates profit share per employee, reducing the number of employees makes everyone's share bigger. Amazon triples its investment in warehouse robotics. Within a year, 200,000 warehouse jobs are handed over to robotic arms and autonomous transport systems. Second move, outsourcing. Companies shift large chunks of their workforce out of employee status and into independent contractor status. Delivery drivers, cleaning staff, security. Since the law only covers employees, these workers suddenly fall outside its scope. Third move, the most sophisticated one, corporate spin-offs. Google turns its AI research division into a separate company, technically no longer Google employees, and therefore no longer subject to the law. Within 6 months, the total number of employees covered by the law across all 3 companies drops by half. For those who remain, the profit share grows even bigger, but now for a much smaller, much more select group. The equality law, paradoxically, creates a smaller and more privileged inner circle. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, A different story is being written. China's tech giants, Tencent, Alibaba, ByteDance, aren't bound by any such law. They can reward their best engineers however they want, accumulate capital however they want. In the AI race, while America's three giants wrestle with their own legal framework, their rivals never slow down. What was once America's greatest competitive advantage, its capacity to attract the best minds, has now turned into a disadvantage. So what does the landscape look like a year later? A year later, all three companies are still standing, but unrecognizable. Amazon's warehouses have half the headcount and triple the robots. The workers who remain really are getting a much bigger profit share, but because total employment shrank, unemployment in those regions has risen noticeably. A significant share of Google's and Apple's brightest researchers are now at competitors or running their own startups. The teams that stayed have shifted toward people who value the equal share and prefer stability over innovation. The stock market has recovered somewhat, but nowhere near its old highs. Pension funds have reshuffled their portfolios into other sectors to make up for the losses. And the most striking outcome, income inequality shrank inside the companies, but grew across society, between companies, between sectors, between countries. Squeeze equality into one box, and everything that spills outside that box comes back, carrying the old imbalance, magnified. What this experiment teaches us is actually a very old question. Is justice giving everyone the same thing? Or is it giving everyone what they earned? A warehouse worker and an engineer receiving the same check is, on paper, perfect equality. But in the real world, a system that stops rewarding the creation of value slowly kills the drive to create it. Maybe the real question isn't, how do you split profit equally? The real question is, who creates value? How do they create it? And what do we owe them to keep them creating it? Find the answer to that question, and maybe you'll find the difference between equality and fairness. I'm Money. See you in the next What If?